Whether you're the crew of an Antarctic research base, two brothers from Kansas, a group of friends from Maine, or anyone else, chances are you know what a shapeshifter is. The idea of something or someone that has the ability to become anything or anyone has captivated and terrified humanity for several millennia, and most likely will continue to for as long as we exist. But where exactly did this archetype come from? Though it's possible it existed earlier, one of the earliest stories about a being that can change its form at will is the Greek god Zeus, who likes to do it a lot for a variety of things, namely his favorite pastime, impregnating human women, as he had over 50 illegitimate children with human women. Most of the time was while taking the form of someone or something else. Also from Greek mythos is the old sea god Proteus, who, due to his ability to tell the future, a lot of people wanted to know and talk to him, so he'd use his shapeshifting ability to just avoid people. Pretty valid. Now, jumping from the Mediterranean to the North Sea, we have the Nordic god Loki, who, being a trickster god, liked to get up to mischief, and one of his favorite ways to do that was to shapeshift into different forms, to do a variety of things, be it, fun pranks, killing people, getting fucked by a horse, the usual. Yep, that's right. Well, in the form of a mare for some reason, he would be impregnated by the prize stallion Svalahari and give birth to Sleipnir, the eight-legged horse creature. Jumping across the North Sea to the British Isles, and more specifically the Celtic folklore of Ireland and Scotland, we have the Morrigan, a shape-shifting goddess who is an embodiment of war and fate, and often takes the form of a crow. Also from the same region is the Kelpie, which, while normally taking the appearance of a weird fish horse creature, it would sometimes take the appearance of an attractive woman and lure men near bodies of water to drown them and feed on their corpses. Sticking with the European continent, we have the Changeling, which varies widely from region to region, but the stories mostly stick to the idea of it has the ability to replicate people, and that's its goal in life, and it's often uses the cuckoo bird approach and replaces one at birth, with it being raised by its family and not knowing that it is in fact not a human. Now, what sometimes is lumped in with shapeshifters is the werewolf, which I personally don't believe it can be counted as one, as it doesn't have full control over its ability to change its forms. Unlike another iconic monster originating from European folklore, the vampire, which in many versions of the myth has the ability to turn to animals at will. Jumping across the pond to North America, we have the Skinwalker from Navajo folklore, which is a kind of witch who, through a taboo act, typically the murder of a close family member, gains the ability to wear the pelt of an animal to change its form into said animal, which will use these abilities to continue with its acts of mischief and typically violence. So that is what's going on. Now, some cultures believe shapeshifters to just be peaceful creatures that just happen to have the ability to change forms. However, most believe that they are malevolent and evil. Whoa, 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 whoa. That's dealt with. Let's discuss some notable shapeshifters in modern media. In the last century or so, the idea of shapeshifters have become far more prevalent throughout media. For instance, there's the 1937 novella Who Goes There by John W. Campbell, which would later on be released by his son under the title Frozen Hell. The story follows an American crew in an Antarctic research base who discover a UFO frozen in the ice, and while attempting to thaw it out, blow it up, because remember, they are Americans, but a body of an alien is discovered in the wreckage. The creature, simply referred to as the Thing, begins to assimilate the crew one by one. After about 15 of the 37 crew members are replaced by the creature, it ends up being incinerated by radio operator McCready before it's able to use the hover device that it had constructed in order to escape the continent. Then there is the 1958 film Invasion of the Body Snatchers, which shows a race of alien plants land on Earth and begin replicating people in order to try to take over the world. Moving on to 1961, the world is introduced to Clayface in Detective Comics issue number 298, and actor who ends up being turned into a creature made of a weird clay-like substance, is able to take any form it wishes. Moving on from DC to Marvel, in 1978, Mystique would make her first appearance in Miss Marvel number 16, a blue mutant who has the ability to change her form into any other person. Now here's the thing. Released in 1982, the film's plot follows an American research crew and an Antarctic Hang on. Yes, this film is an adaptation of the aforementioned novella, Who Goes There, however with some very key differences, such as the fact that there's only 12 crew members instead of 37, and the creature, instead of being discovered by the Americans themselves, was first discovered by a separate Norwegian crew prior to the events of the film, which was showcased in its 2011 prequel, also titled The Thing. Now, some of you may be saying, what about the first film to adapt the plot of Who Goes There? The 1951 film, The Thing from Another World. It's not about a shapeshifter. It's not even set in the same hemisphere. Then there's Stephen King's 1986 novel It, which in its 500,000 words features themes of childhood, importance of friendship, growing up, and, of course, anyways, the book's events follow a group of friends nicknamed the Losers Club, battling a cosmic entity both as children in the 1950s and adults in the then-present 1980s. The entity feeds on both human flesh and fear. In order to make its meals more enjoyable, it takes the form of whatever its victims fear the most. So for me, it'd be either the kennel creature from the movie The Thing, or a woman showing interest in me. Both equally scary. Anyways, the creature's favorite form to take is that of Pennywise the Dancing Clown, a clown with an affinity for things that float, be it the decaying bodies of children or balloons. The creature's ultimately defeated by the children at the end of the book, and they all live happily ever after. Or do they? Stephen King's books are all weird. Now, the 14-year-long fever dream known as Supernatural, a television series which I am quite fond of, features a massive rogues gallery of many different creatures from different folklores around the world, but one that shows up a lot for some reason is shapeshifters, which, the way they're depicted, they actually were originally humans that have a weird mutation that lets them shed their skin to take the form of another person. And they're also deathly allergic to silver. And also the 2012 series, Gravity Falls, in one of its earliest episodes, shows a shapeshifter that's been confined into a lab that tries to kill the main characters because what else would you do if you're trapped in a lab for 30 years? So what exactly is it that made the idea of shapeshifters remain so prevalent throughout human history and so terrifying in most of its aspects? It plays on two of humanity's biggest instincts, the fear of the unknown and the uncanny valley. So, that's it. That's what makes shapeshifters truly terrifying. That's a history of them. That's all you need to know. That's all I've got to say. Thanks for watching. See you next time. Subscribe, like, share with your friends.